Hello again, I am Jess Woods, your tempo host for Chicago Marathon Week, and I am way too excited to be joined by Galen Rupp. Galen, thank you so much for being here. I know that Marathon Week is super crazy, so appreciate it that you're taking some time out for us.
Anytime, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone tuning in, you are a legend, a rock star, like the shining light in U.S. like marathoning, but got to give a brief bio just in case anyone watching doesn't know who you are. So we have Galen here, 4-time Olympian, 2-time Olympic medalist, 7-time NCAA All-American. We don't even know.
I'm not sure.
We've lost track, and I could go on, and it would take up the entire 40 minutes. But a legend, a rock star. Thank you so much. And I know that Chicago is near and dear to you for some reason. I mean, I don't know if it's because you won the 2017 Chicago Marathon, or I think you have family here. Like, why is Chicago so kind of near and dear to you?
Yeah, I mean, winning was obviously, that almost cemented a place in my heart with Chicago, as a special race. But yeah, I love the people here. My dad grew up here, still have some family in the area. And this was the only place we ever took a vacation to come see, I think, when I was a kid, was come visit family. And so I just have so many fond memories of visiting this city. I grew up loving the Cubs, root for the Bears. And
do you still root for the Bears?
I still do, yeah. I know they've had a little bit of a rough go, but I love Justin Fields. I think he's got a ton of potential. He looks so comfortable back there. We got to give him a little more help on the O-line, I think, to block and a running game. But
you sound like a Chicago native.
Looking up a little bit, I think, yeah.
You don't even sound like born and raised Portland, Oregon. It sounds like you are from here.
I do love the Bears, and yeah, I love the Cubs for sure. I remember having a little Cabbage Patch Cubs doll, when I was little, that my dad got me, and so yeah, we came out. We had a couple of years where we come out Wrigley Field and just go to like 6 or 7 games in a week. That was all we did, was like go to baseball games. And
that was your vacation.
Got a lot of fun memories, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have friends and family coming out this weekend?
I got a few friends coming out to watch, and then my wife's coming tomorrow, so it'll be good to have her out here as well. But we left the kids at home this year.
Oh, left the kids at home. So
yeah.
This is an adult vacation, runcation.
Yeah, I don't know if I call it a vacation, because I'm just sleeping and running still when I'm over here. I'm not very much fun to be around, I think, for her. But no, she's my rock, and always a person that I'm just so calm and always relaxed when she's around. So I'm real thankful that she's coming out, and it'll be good. It'll be good to have a couple of days without, a little screaming in the background from the little ones.
Now, was the Chicago Marathon always your 2021 plan? Because it just feels like such a crazy short turnaround between Tokyo Marathon and now Chicago. What is it, 9 weeks?
Yeah, I think right around there. It was definitely a tight turnaround. But yeah, the plan was always to come here and run. I just can't stop coming back. I love the race. Carrie always does a great job. Tracy, the lead athlete coordinator, is unbelievable. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to be coming back. So we knew it was going to be a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
And I think it's always easier when you can plan a little bit ahead. We knew well before the Olympics this was going to be the marathon I was going to run. And so, Mike and I had a great plan to recover from the Olympics, and you're always riding that fine line of making sure you don't overcook yourself and get back too quickly after a big race like that. But you also don't want to take too much time easy and lose some of that fitness you have. You want to keep building and going up. So yeah, it was a really good transition that we had. It took a week, just real easy. Didn't do any workouts, maybe did a few strides, but a lot of it was just easy mileage, that first week back after the marathon in Japan. And Mike told me, he's like, it's not really a rest because you're still running, but really just take a week to kind of decompress, get your mind off of everything, spend some time with your family. I've been gone for a couple months training in Flagstaff, so I hadn't really seen them at all for a while. And yeah, just get away. I think I went out to fish, once in there, and just really try to get away from everything running related and get my mind, kind of reset. I think, before you got back into heavy training. So we did that. Second week was kind of, you called them just bridge workouts, nothing super hard, but just something to kind of get your body moving faster again. And by that third week, I was back up to full volume and full intensity in training, and we've been hitting it hard ever since.
Okay, well, that's really good to hear, because I think that even the everyday runner who's not obviously training at your level, we have so many runners now with this compact schedule of all of these major marathons back to back to back, and we're seeing a lot of people running many of these marathons this season. So I like the advice of taking 1 week at least of running easy, resetting. Can you talk a little bit more about like what the recovery looked like? I feel like it was both equal parts important to focus on, the physical side and ramping back up, but then also recovering, like you mentioned. So what are your recovery strategies, modalities? What do you focus on?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you said something really important, that it's emotionally, it's just as important as physically to really, especially at the Olympics, like everybody, a lot of people, they still want to race, but usually there's such a, I don't want to say a down period, but yeah, you kind of come down off of that high from running at literally the biggest stage there is in that sport. So you got to take that time for yourself. But as far as recovery, just a lot of sleep. I think getting in the water is a great thing. Pools, just something about that pressure, hydrostatic pressure, that just really helps, move your blood around, and something that doesn't have a lot of impact. And I think that that's a tremendous way, whether it's just swimming, aqua jogging. I did both. I suck as a swimmer.
Yeah, I'm also terrible. Love to hear that you're an aqua jogger.
I sink like a brick, and people think I'm horsing around, and I'm trying my best. Like I've been in the pool sometimes, people be like, all right, when are you going to stop screwing around and start actually trying to swim? I'm like, no, this is as hard as I'm trying. And it doesn't help that both my wife's parents swam in college, and so she's really good, and I'm on the other end of that spectrum. But just getting in the water, I think, is good for you. And, a lot of stretching, I use those Normatec boots a lot. Those are good. Getting body work, massage is real important. Icing, just doing contrast baths, I think, is a tremendous thing, and something that I do year round, with training, where you maybe hit 2.5, 3 minutes, about as, pretty warm water, actually.
Yeah.
Try to get as hot as you can handle, and then, you only need like 30 seconds or a minute, and it's about as cold as you can handle, really load that thing up with ice. And alternating between those two, the heat, everything really expands, and then you get the cold and it compresses everything. So it really helps just flush all that, junk out of your legs and your body. So that's another really good thing. But
it sounds like you spend a lot of time recovering.
Yeah, it really, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like if you're not training physically, like you should be focusing on recovery and doing everything you can in your power to get back, because that just allows you to train that much harder. So yeah, it's never ending, and I know it sounds silly sometimes, but even taking a nap and just sleeping, like to me, that's training still, and sleep is the number one thing you can do for recovery, like above
Absolutely.
Anything else. That's the best thing. And not laying down watching TV, like that's not the same. And I do that a lot, but there's nothing that replaces just real heavy sleep, taking a good nap and making sure you're getting in a lot of sleep at night. So it's always a big priority for me, but yeah, you really try to maximize every day. Like I really hate it when you get pro athletes to talk about how they need to have other stuff to do because they're bored during the day, or there's too many hours to kill.
I love being bored.
It literally drives me crazy that this is your profession, and for me, like I wish there were more hours in a day that you could continually work on getting yourself better, and it's not always strictly a physical thing. Your body can only handle so much of a load, whether it's running or weightlifting, but there's a lot of things that you can do in your free time to get better, as a person, as an athlete. And that to me is like a never-ending journey that you should be working on every single hour, every single day.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I am on team nap as well. I think naps are life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's like the physical recovery, and then you briefly talked about kind of like resetting your mind as well. So like how do you go from that biggest stage in the world that you were on in Tokyo and performing at that level in front of so many people? And how do you just like recover emotionally, mentally, reset, and then start that mental prep all over again? Can you tell us what some of that looks like? Is it meditation? Is it talking to someone? What is it that you work on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm some expert or anything, but yeah, I do believe a lot in meditation and just breathing, you know, even if it's just taking some time to take some real deep, good breaths, you know, breathing through your nose. And, you know, that's something that it's almost a little bit of a lost art. You know, I think people are getting back to doing that a lot more, but yeah, I mean, just doing little things like that, it's amazing. And it's not necessarily something that you get overnight or you feel, you know, I definitely feel better after I do it. Some people don't feel a big difference, but definitely over time, it's one of those things you keep chipping away at, and it is a skill. You know, you get better the more that you do it. And so, you know, when I first started, I'd get on it be really good for maybe a week or two, and then like, oh, this isn't really doing much, and kind of fall off of it, and then inevitably I keep coming back. And but just having that, doing it with regularity and consistency, you definitely get better. And I do think that it really helps clear your head. You know, after the Olympics, I was definitely a little down. You know, it's always like everybody, it's a roller coaster. You know, like you're revved up, you're ready to go before the race. I had kind of a disappointing race there, and it really hits me hard. And I take it's just a really hard thing, I guess. I take it really seriously, and I feel like I let a lot of people down, you know, and I know that that's not the case, you know, and those people tell me that all the time. And
easier said than done, though.
It is, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people have supported me and given so much to help me, you know, be the best athlete I can be and really go after my dreams. And when I don't hit that, I feel like I let those people down that have sacrificed so much, you know, just to help me. And it's almost like clockwork, like looking back, where, you know, you kind of see how silly it is, but you still can't help those feelings. And the older I get, you kind of realize like that's just a normal process, you know. And I think it's important to go through that, but just not try to deny it or say that it isn't real. You've got to acknowledge that. Yeah. But that doesn't make it any easier. You know, it still hurts, but at some point you got to get over it. And, you know, it takes me a couple days usually, but it's all just kind of part of it. And then, you know, you want to kind of just not think about running and get away and reset. For me, that's big, you know, there's so few times where things aren't about training that you really want to take advantage when those periods of time come up. And then you want to be in a completely relaxed state, and then that's when you can start to build up again. You take time to evaluate. I think that's a really important thing that not a lot of people do a great job of, is really going back and looking honestly at what you did, whether it's training, during the race, before, all the ways that you can get better, you know, and the whole reason for that is to get better.
Yeah.
But you got to look at them, and you got to be really honest with yourself about things that you did well, things you didn't do well, and then you come up with a plan. How are you going to fix it? How are you going to make sure that these mistakes don't happen again? And that's what you do, and then you start to move forward, and then time heals everything, you know, as they say, and the further away you get, it's easy to kind of put that to bed, and then you start moving forward, you know, towards your next goal and getting ready for that.
Well, that's great to hear that you actually take some time to reflect and evaluate, because I feel like a lot of people, it's always like just on to the next thing. So that's super important. I'm so glad that you had some time to do that, or you made time to do that.
That's what it is.
Now, you said that you were disappointed in your performance, but there must have also been a highlight. Like, what was your favorite memory of Tokyo? We keep talking about this time period in between Tokyo and now, and we haven't like gone back to just talking about How are we not talking about Tokyo at all? What was your like favorite memory from the most recent Olympics?
I mean, just it certainly was a very different Olympics, you know, and but just the fact that they happened, you know, I was really grateful for that. And you know, that's one of the things from COVID, you know, I've always been someone that's really believed you need to look for positives in every situation, or look for ways that you get better. You know, there's never a wasted moment or wasted opportunity in anything. And as bad as COVID's been, for me, it's really given me a lot of appreciation for little things that I took for granted. I mean, even just having races that were going to happen and you didn't have to worry about cancellations. I mean, who would have ever thought that they just wouldn't happen? Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful for every race. I'm grateful that the Olympics happen. I'm grateful for every day that I have my health and I'm able to go out and do what I love, you know. And I think it really changed my perspective in a lot of ways, for the better. And just having the Olympics was a big thing, you know, being out there and finally feeling healthy, you know. Like it's been 2 years, a little over 2, well actually coming up on 3 since I had surgery on my Achilles and my ankle. And really it was about 2 years before I didn't have any pain, just walking around or doing normal activities. I was able to function, but it was finally a good step in the right direction for me to be able to say, like, I'm healthy, get into the starting line, and it's been great ever since then. I mean, these last 6 or 8 weeks have been by far better than anything I did before the Olympics. So
are you feeling better now than you were before the Olympics?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, and
that's
I was
awesome.
extremely lucky to have so many years of great health. You know, there were a lot of little things that came up, but that happens to everybody. But certainly having my health back and feeling like my mechanics are, you know, back to where they were, pretty darn close. I mean, that's the best gift ever. Where running's fun. I mean, there are a lot of days where it was hard going out. You're just in constant pain from the start, and you're getting through runs, and it's like you're surviving when you need to be thriving. You know, you need to be like, how can I hit this workout? And there were so many days and so many training sessions where it was like, I just got to get through this, and you're struggling to hit, you know, times, or struggling to make it through a workout. And so it's been humbling, but it's been really good now. And I'm so grateful for every day that I go out, I'm running, I feel free when I run, and I'm able to hit workouts and see how fast can I go, as opposed to can I just hit what is initially prescribed.
Oh, well, this is going to be exciting to watch on Sunday then. You're getting me excited with how good you're feeling.
Yeah.
But there must have been some lessons learned from Tokyo, right? Like you're talking about reflecting, looking back. I mean, you had to have learned things about racing in the heat like that. I mean, you're going to have somewhat similar conditions this weekend. Can you tell us anything about maybe some specific lessons learned from Tokyo that you're going to be that either helped you tweak your training or game plan, and what you've learned to now apply for Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was any, I wouldn't call it a tweak, but just realizing that, you know, I had some really good workouts before the Olympics, but I also missed some. You know, there's just small little things that come up, but when you're really trying to get on a roll or hit workouts, you know, it's frustrating when you can't hit them, or you got to stop early, you know, for your health. And that's the one thing that really stuck out to me, was just I need that consistency. And I think I just need a little more time before Tokyo, because I just had some bad luck with small things coming up, but they did have an impact on my training. And nothing can replace sometimes just consistently having good workouts. You know, it's not just one great workout you run. It's kind of the totality of weeks and weeks of good workouts. That's where you really get in tremendous shape. And I've had that now. You know, the last 6-8 weeks have been great. I think of all things, I think I actually drank too much in Tokyo. Like, I have a real strong stomach, and I've got a real, you know, people in the lab, even at Nike, you know, they've been kind of surprised with how much fluid I can put down. And I looked at it as kind of an advantage, but I think in hindsight, looking back, I was drinking a lot at every station and really frequently, and it might have been a little bit too much. So, you know, we adjusted that, and you know, had some really great conversations, and you know, I think we've got that dialed in a lot more for this. So that was another lesson I would say that I could learn from the Olympics.
Do you think your heat, like acclimation, worked in Tokyo? Like, did you acclimate to the heat before Tokyo? Did you like check the weather for Chicago? Have you been sitting in saunas or anything like that?
Yep. Yeah. No, I've always checked the weather. You know, that's just something that you always want to be prepared for. And definitely, you know, it was going to be hot in Japan, and So I was doing a lot of work, in sweats and, kind of made a little chamber that could get a lot of humidity and heat in there. So, and that's something that I've done in the past too, and I was ready for that.
Yeah.
I've always run fairly well in the heat, and a lot of that, most of that is preparation. You get your body used to being in miserable conditions a lot. I mean, it can function a lot better in there than if you did nothing and then all of a sudden it's like, what the heck is going on? I'm not used to this. So, yeah, I mean, we've looked at the weather for this, and I was in Portland a lot, and we've actually had some warmer days, and I do a lot still on my treadmill, and you just don't turn any fans on or anything, so it gets pretty hot and humid in there.
Okay.
Did some long runs in there where it was really, really warm, so I'll certainly be ready if it's hot and humid here.
Oh, yes, I definitely feel like it works to your advantage for sure. So that's going to be amazing to watch. So it's going to work to your advantage. Is there any like changes in strategy for Sunday versus like previous years?
No, I mean, yeah, you have your plan in place, and obviously you've got to be a little flexible with that. It's good to have an idea, but that was a famous Mike Tyson saying, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, and certainly that happens a lot, in marathon running, and you got to be willing to be a little flexible and adapt and work on the fly, and you always try to plan for all those scenarios in your head, so that nothing catches you off guard, and I think that's why real good visualization is so important, just during training, and obviously you want to put yourself in a lot of real difficult situations and workouts so that you're ready for them. You don't want to be thinking too much when you're racing. It should be more almost just instinctive reactions to stuff, and that really comes from how you prepare, both mentally and physically for a race. And I think whether it's fast or slow or there's surges, I like to think that I'm ready for anything that could get thrown at me. But yeah,
but
regardless.
You must have a plan going into it, though.
Yeah. Oh, I mean.
What's the ideal race day strategy? Are you going out are you going out fast and hanging on? Are you setting the pace? Are you hanging off of someone? What's the?
Yeah. I mean, I won't give away too much, but I do think that in a marathon, especially, races aren't won in the first half of the race. It just doesn't happen now. You're never going to pull away and be running comfortably at the end. So you've got to be ready to compete, and you've got to be ready to make moves, especially those last 5, 6, 7, 8 miles. That's when the real racing starts. And for me, at the start, that first half is really about conserving as much energy as possible, whether it's fast or whether it's slow. It's like, how easy can you get to halfway? Because every ounce of energy that you waste there is that much less that you have to give when the real racing starts. And you got to just conserve as much as possible. Physically, you don't want to have all these extra movements. You don't want to be making these dumb moves at the start. You obviously have to be aware and cover moves if someone goes out hard, and you don't want to let them get a gap on you, but you just want to do it as efficiently as possible to save up as much for when the real racing starts, because it is going to hurt. I mean, it's a marathon, it's a long ways. I don't care how good you feel at the start, like, you will have those kind of choice moments when you have doubts or you start to wonder, can I pick it up? Is this pace too fast? Am I going to be able to hold on? Everybody has those. I don't care what anybody says. That's a normal thing that goes through all runners' heads. And it's just how you deal with that. And a lot of that, I believe, comes from just conserving as much as possible in the first half of the race, and that doesn't always mean that you're jogging. It could be a fast pace from the start, but again, it's like, how easy can you get to halfway, whatever that time is. And then you start to, the longer the race goes, that's when tactics come more into play, where do you start surging, you start testing people, and, you can't be scared to bury someone if you get that opportunity. It's sometimes you let people hang on a little too long, it gives them a little more hope, and you got to strike. It's like you have to literally crush any hope that they have, crush any of their spirit when you get that opportunity in a race. If that little gap forms, just get rid of them, bury them right then, and then you move on to, the rest of your competition. But you can never be scared to take that opportunity, and that's what I love about the sport, is the competitive aspect. Times are great,
Your
running fast is great, but
coming out.
You have to, when you get that opportunity, you got to bury people 100%.
I'm glad you can't see my face right now. This is like, hearing this side of you is making me so happy right now. I like this. Bury the competition. But this is definitely the clip that I'm going to screenshot and share to all my athletes. Like, he said to start easy. Did you hear that? He said, it's like, say it one more time for the people in the back.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people are like, what do you do to get hyped up? I was like, you almost don't want to be hyped up for a marathon. I'm the exact opposite of that. I want to if I listen to music, which I don't always do, it's got to be like really slow and mellow, like nothing that's going to get me on edge, because you're already on edge because you've trained for so long, you're finally resting, feeling good, you made it to the start line, you got these big crowds, like all that is already there. If you need something else, like you got bigger problems, headed into that race, and there's just more of a danger of being too hyped up at the start, that you go out too fast, and you will pay for it later. So for me, it's just about staying even keel and really mellow at the start, and saving that up for when you really need it.
And I didn't even pay you to say all that. That's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so we're making some fluid and fueling adjustments, starting off as easy as we can, not afraid to bury the competition in the final miles. So I know that you really love the long run. This is your favorite workout or run to do leading up to the marathon? Have you had time to throw in these monster long runs and fast finishes? Like, what does that look like?
Yep. Yeah. No, I've definitely done a lot of long runs. I have to go back and look, but probably at least 4 or 5 of them, I would say, maybe 6 since the Olympics. It's a real staple of my training, and there's nothing that gets you ready for a marathon better than that. And not all of them are hard. Some of them were for sure, and you practice closing hard. Some of them you're running hard the whole way. Sometimes you're going back and forth in paces. Like, it's important. It goes back to what I was saying. Like, you just want to prepare for everything, and that only comes from doing it yourself and training. And so that's been a big part of my training. And the last couple big long runs before the Olympics, I had to cut a little short, or something came up where I wasn't able to run as hard as I wanted to. So that was disappointing, but those definitely have always given me the most confidence heading into a race.
Yeah.
Because nothing better simulates what you're going to feel than having to run hard on tired legs. I've certainly done a few of them leading up to this.
Glad to hear it. And you've talked about, basically like preparing for the worst, so the worst never happens, and kind of like building up these mental calluses and purposely putting yourself in these terrible situations. And I know I've read before you talked about maybe this mental, what do you call it? Mental piggy bank? Like,
oh yeah.
Can you share your thoughts on that? Because I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just you always want to make training as miserable as possible, so that nothing comes as a surprise to you. And when you start killing yourself in workouts over and over and over again, and especially when you're doing a lot of mileage, you're in the thick of it, heavy training, you start to learn that, like, it doesn't matter how you feel, it doesn't matter how tired you might be going into something, you can still hit these workouts. And at some point, at least for me, something clicked where that stuff just all doesn't matter. Your bad days and your good days, it's like you want to minimize that variance between them as much as possible. But it's more of a mental thing than anything else. Unless your leg's falling off or you got some serious injury, like, you just have a terrible workout. Sometimes that happens, but it shouldn't be that far off from when you're having a great workout. You want to try to keep that, whatever you call it, variance, between as small as possible. And great athletes, they don't feel great all the time when they race. It's impossible. It's not realistic. But their bad days are still pretty darn good because they push themselves that hard. It just becomes second nature. And so you learn to push like that. But that only comes from doing some real miserable stuff in training and really always trying to get the most out of yourself. So I kind of went on a tangent there. But
no,
it really is just about repetition. And it's a mental thing too. Not only physically you learn it doesn't matter, but mentally you can say, I got a lot going on, or stressed out, or I feel tired, or those are things that I do think you have control over. Your thoughts to some extent.
Yeah.
And you start trying to distance away from those bad things and saying like, all right, this is what I can do today. And again, for me, it's just always been about closing that gap. I might not physically have everything that I would if I was feeling great, but I'm going to be as close to that as possible. And that's the goal that I have in my head when I have those tough training sessions that physically are really hard. It's like, this is more of a mental workout today, and you still want to hit those times or come as close to them as possible. And that's how you really callous your mind. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, but having like we used to call it like a bank account,
yes.
piggy bank with your mind. It's important to take time to reflect on what you did good, what you did bad. Having real specific goals going into workouts, all that stuff is super important, as silly as it might seem. And you need to keep going back after every workout, put it back into the context of a race, like know why you're doing the training you're doing. And you just make these small deposits into this bank account, and you take out big withdrawals in races when you're having those huge doubts and huge moments when you're questioning yourself. You fall back on your training.
Yeah, are
in
you
those
thinking
times
about
of
these
uncertainty.
things in real time during your race?
Absolutely.
You're just like opening up that bank account and being like, okay, this is hard right now, but I've done something even harder, like
Absolutely.
in my training.
Yeah, you go, like, I've been in this situation before. I've felt like I couldn't keep going, and I've still been able to do 5 more intervals, or I felt like I was going to fall off, and I still was able to hit the times. Like, you take a lot of the thinking out of it when you've prepared as well as you can, both mentally and physically in training, that it just almost becomes second nature. You know how to push yourself that hard, and it's never a question about getting the most out. And yeah, you do fall back on all those experiences and say like, I remember this workout. I remember, hitting the times in this long run. Like, I can do this. And that's the best source of confidence, at least for me personally, that I always go back to in really trying times in a race.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be something running related that's in that mental bank account, right? Like, it could be something else, like that was just a pivotal moment in your life that you can like tap back into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to look for anything positive sometimes in those, because it's a battle with your own mind, really. Like, because it's going to tell you to stop. It's going to tell you can't go any further, but that stuff really is 99.9% of the time is all in your head. Physically, if you couldn't take another step, you're hurt, some injury happens, or your body just totally shuts down and you fall over. That's a physical thing. But people saying, I can't take another step, and then they go walk off. It's like, no, you could have. It's just sometimes becomes so overwhelming, all those things that go on in your head, that you give up.
Yeah.
And that might sound harsh, but it's really what it is. And you got to be honest with yourself. But the best way to combat that, I think, is trying to be totally present and trying to be like, find something small to get you through that point. Take your mind off of it. Think about something positive. You can think about a physical cue. For me, I was going to try to keep my shoulders down, because they creep up a lot when I run. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, we all have our tics when we say.
But you got to like just take it back to that present, because you can't run however many miles you have left in that 1 second you're thinking about that. All you can worry about is literally that step. And it sounds easy, but it's one of the hardest things in the world to do.
Yeah, and that's why it all goes back to just constantly practicing. And so you've given a lot of great advice for maybe our racers that are tuning in, maybe without even realizing it. But you've talked about the mental prep and the visualization and preparing for the worst. But is there anything else that you can think of? Any like last minute tips, tricks? I mean, it could even be like, the course like the back of your hand. Is there anything like rapid fire that you can think of, last minute advice for our racers this Sunday?
I don't actually know. Like, I still couldn't tell you. I know generally where the course goes, but I'm kind of out. I'm really trying to clear my mind and be so out of it. A lot of the race. It's just about like, be blank, like, I pray a lot when I run. Like, that's a way for me to pass the time, and for me, it just keeps a real positive mindset doing that, and it's a good reminder, like, I wear this chain, and it's like, to me, like some people say, why you wear that? It looks so annoying, like having that bounce around. But it's a constant reminder to me about, obviously my faith, but certainly reminds me of my family, like why you're doing this. Just having that jingling and hitting you in the chest constantly. So whatever it is, I think just having some sort of, whether it's a mantra, I think those are great. That you can always go back to just settle your mind down. Things start to get bad, just start saying a word over again, saying a phrase over again, whatever it is, something that's going to just keep your mind from thinking those bad thoughts. And that can really work you through some tremendously, like, really difficult times in a race. And you just got to find those small battles even within the race. I've counted light posts. I've said just get to the next water station. I mean, anything you can imagine. But you just got to keep yourself going. And I know it sounds corny, but it really is one step at a time. And as long as you can just find a reason not to quit and to keep going, that's one of the most powerful things, I think, that can get you through those rough times.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you maybe like a tough one or a deeper one to end on. I mean, your why. You've talked about your why, but have you thought about, I know you're not retiring anytime soon, very aware, but have you put any thought into like what kind of legacy you would eventually like to leave behind for this sport?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the only thing I can say about that is that distance running, especially in the U.S., was really down. I would say when I started running, I remember it was kind of a big deal just to hit qualifying standard to go compete at a World Championships or Olympics in a distance event. And I guess personally, I always just wanted to show people and show myself as well, like, you can compete with anybody in the world. Like, the East Africans obviously have dominated distance running. They're unbelievably talented. They work super hard. I think their lifestyle is just awesome. It's so conducive for distance running. They just eat, sleep, and run. And that's what you're up against. But it's not impossible to do. And I guess I always wanted to at least just show that it was possible with a lot of hard work and dedication, that you can compete. And I've played a small part, I think, in that, hopefully. There's been a lot of tremendous runners that have come up. Matthew Centrowitz winning the mile, Evan Jager medalist, steeplechase. Like, it's so awesome to see Americans competing on the world stage in distance events, because it's just always stuck with me, in high school. And it was like, you just never saw any American guys really competing at a world level in distance. Now you see them all across the board. It's so cool. And I hope that people can find the joy in distance running that I've found. It's such a personal challenge, really, to see, like, how good can you be, how far can you go, whatever that is. Winning races is great, setting records is great, but what I really love about the sport is it's a constant battle with yourself. And when you ask about my why, it's been about seeing how much can I get out of my body, how much can I get out of my mind, and that target, like, keeps moving year by year. That's the beauty of it. Like, you might think when you're in high school you set a goal, sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. If you hit it, a lot of times you're just moving on to the next one. It's like, all right, now where can I take this? And that's what I love about the sport, is just trying to find your own potential. And that's what's always been my why with it, is how can you get to that potential? Because nobody ever knows really what it is.
You don't know what it is until you try and do something that's more.
Ever. Yeah. You might think it's impossible, and then all of a sudden you do it, and then it's like, all right, well, I can keep going from there. It's just your perspective.
Yeah.
Iliad showed the world that when he ran under 2 hours. Nobody ever thought that was possible. And I'm sure in his heart he believes he might be able to run faster. And I wouldn't put it past him to do it. But that's the awesome part about running that I've just always loved.
Oh, thank you so much. I know that we can't follow you on social media to keep up with your updates, so we're going to have to follow the Chicago Marathon itself. Yep. And people can obviously follow Tempo to, like, keep up to date on Sunday and how you're doing. Is there any chance that we're going to see you back on social media so we can keep up with you?
Probably not, but
No.
if I'm being real, yeah, I don't know. You never say never, but yeah,
You got to give the people.
it's not usually my thing.
No, but you got to give the people what they want. I hear there's this old Galen Rupp Twitter account that
I did have one. I did have one at one point. I'll say that, yeah. And yeah, I kind of just did it with my buddies. I think I started in college, but that is just never really my thing.
I know.
You know, Central and Mo got me back on. I think after the Olympics, they convinced me, but it's just never my thing. But we'll see.
All
You never
right,
say never.
Yeah, never say never. Fingers crossed. But we'll be following along for sure. Thank you so much for taking the time out again. It's a crazy week, and we cannot wait to watch you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.